Welcome to my double book review of The 5 Love Languages, The Secret to Love That Lasts, the Marriage Edition, and The 5 Love Languages Single Edition. I'm kind of doing them together because really it's just about the 5 love languages. So I read these a long time ago, and Julian and I actually read them, did the tests in them before we ended up actually in a relationship. So it's really quite interesting. What he talks about basically is that we all have a love tank, and the way that our love tank gets filled up is different for each and every one of us. So he talks about 5 love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. And he talks about the number of ways to express love within each love language is limited only by your imagination. The important thing is to speak the love language of your spouse, or to know your single love language, and then to talk about those. To know basically how your love tank gets filled. And then if your partner is willing to do the test as well, then to find out how your partner gets their love tank filled. So he says, I'm convinced that keeping the emotional love tank is full is as important to a marriage as maintaining the proper oil level is to an automobile. You can tell how long ago it was written, automobile. So running your marriage on an empty love tank is not so good. So I'd kind of say maybe a 6 out of 10 overall for the books. They're quite lengthy for the message within them, but what is really good is the tests that you can actually test yourself to find out what your love language is, and I believe you can actually do these tests online now as well. What Julian and I found very funny, because there's a profile for husbands and then there's a profile for wives. And so in the profile for husbands, and they've got equivalent questions, it says, I love having sex with my wife, or I like it when my wife picks up little things she knows I'll like. So that's the difference between physical touch. You get given a choice, and it narrows down all your choices. So I love having sex with my wife is like a physical touch love language. I like it when my wife picks up the little things she knows I like. That will most likely be receiving gifts. Then we flip to the same equivalent question in the profile for wives. I wish my husband and I cuddled more. I wish my husband would surprise me with a gift more often. So when Julian and I did it, I was like, hang on a minute. He gets to have sex and I just get to have cuddles. So I believe that he is a Christian. So maybe it's something to do with his beliefs, but I think sex is a very important thing in a loving relationship. So I wish my husband and I would have sex more. The type of question would be okay for me. But I can understand that for some women that might be confronting, and they may wish just to have the physical touch of being cuddled. So I also do understand some of that wording, but we did find that funny. So, we learnt Julian is very high physical touch, words of affirmation. Myself was quality time, then physical touch and words of affirmation were quite high up there for me as well. So it was really good to learn how to talk your partner's love language so they feel loved. So if I was constantly buying gifts for Julian and he's like, well, it doesn't really do anything for me and it doesn't make me feel loved, then that's really not filling his tank. But if I really liked having gifts bought for me and he was buying me little gifts, then that would be great. Neither of us were the language of gifts. However, if Julian and I spend quality time together, and for me quality time is when we're present with each other, we're talking on a level of depth, so that there's intimacy, that we're sharing things, that we're open with each other, that we're vulnerable. That might be a walk on the beach, that might be a bushwalk, that might be doing something together, but it's quality doing together. We're having connection. I feel so loved, I feel connected. For Julian, if I cuddle him, if I, if I walk past him and touch him, he feels more loved with physical touch. So it's trying to remember these things, and I don't always remember it. We're not always going to remember it. We're not perfect. But when I do, I can absolutely speak the language that makes my partner feel like his tank is full, and I can ask for my tank to be filled with the ways that it works for me. So we leave little notes for each other, you know, around the places, because that makes us feel loved, and it, you know, gives you a smile and fills your love tank just that little bit. Just things like that. And he gives you different ways of doing that, but he also, like he says, you know, it's your imagination. And the singles edition, it tells you ways to experiment whilst you're dating, and, you know, putting it out there, putting out into the universe what you want. So, yeah, good books. Not sure whether you need to read the whole book or not, or whether you just need to do the test and find out what your love language is and work out that for you. But it is a good read, so it is recommended.